Hello everybody, and welcome back to Steven's Fight Show. Alright, so this Saturday, or more so today, we have Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, and it is set to be the biggest fight this year for professional boxing. I am so happy that this fight is actually following through because, as I said again, for the Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez fight, boxing needs this. This is a perfect fight to make for a few reasons. Both fighters are in their prime. Tank is 28 and Ryan is 24. This isn't a case where both fighters are fighting each other too early or too late. It's right where it should be. They're both in the pinnacle of their career right now. Both guys are also massive stars in boxing. In terms of pay-per-view status, Tank is already a star in that aspect. Ever since Floyd invested in Tank's career, he's been selling out arenas and drawing in a lot of attention from mainstream media to his fights. Ryan Garcia, on the other hand, is a social media star. He's got a massive following outside of the boxing ring. On top of that, he's got sponsorships and brand deals that earn extra money outside of the boxing ring. He's the most popular boxer for the younger generation that aren't necessarily hardcore boxing fans, if you know what I mean. Like, there are fans that strictly watch boxing, but then there are people who aren't really fans, but they know Ryan Garcia through maybe being on their favorite YouTuber's podcast. That's very possible. And lastly, these two are very exciting fighters. They're both very talented and skilled in the boxing ring. Their styles are very entertaining to watch as well. Both guys hardly go to a decision when you look at their records. So what does that mean for this fight? Well, I know for sure that this is going to be a very competitive fight, and it's going to be Tank's toughest fight of his career thus far. Please do not let the media and the fans fool you. Ryan Garcia is a legitimate threat to Tank Davis. The internet wants to go down this route and portray Ryan Garcia to be this Instagram or YouTube boxer so badly because of his social media following, and I don't understand why. First of all, he's taken advantage of the rise of social media to further his professional boxing career. What's so bad about that? People who are shoe sellers, bakers, artists, or any other kind of profession, they all use social media to enhance their career. So why is it a problem when Ryan Garcia does it? Second of all, if you're an educated fan of pro boxing, you would know that Ryan Garcia is a real fighter. You can see it in his performances and the way he finishes all of his fights. You can't put up those performances without having some kind of ability inside of the boxing ring. On top of that, the dude has had like 230 amateur boxing fights. He has more amateur boxing fights than Tank, and he's also won a lot of national titles as well. So as far as I know, he's been a boxer before being a social media star, so let's not try to spin the narrative. So we know this fight is competitive, but earlier I mentioned that both of these guys don't usually go to a decision. If we combine both of their victories, we have 51 wins. 45 out of those wins ended in stoppages. So as a result, people believe that this is a fight where it's not going to be a boring fight. People want to see someone get finished because this fight is also bragging rights as well. Tank certainly has a lot more to lose by far. If Ryan Garcia loses this fight, he'll be fine. The worst that can happen is that people online are going to say, well, I told you so. He can still come back and continue to fight and post social media content. But if Tank loses this fight, oh boy. Streets are going to do one of two things. Either they'll say that the fight is rigged, or they'll say that Tank is a fraud. Prepare yourselves right now for that possibility because I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. Also, if Tank wins this fight, even though it should benefit him, it might not actually do much for him in the public's eye because people already don't respect Ryan Garcia as a professional fighter. So if Tank beats him, people are going to be like, well, I mean, that's obvious, you should have beaten him. When in reality, it's not supposed to work like that. Tank is supposed to get major praise if he wins this fight. So I'm afraid that Tank might be in a lose-lose situation here. If he loses, the public is going to talk trash and his plans to continue to fight the best in his division will be forestalled. If he wins, then the masses will downplay this achievement. And even though it's unfair for Tank, this is where legends and champions are made. Pressure makes diamonds, and I believe that this is the fight where we're going to see if Tank is really built to be an all-time great in the sport when you have everything to lose. And Tank has always said, I am who I say I am, so we'll see. There's also a rematch clause for Tank if he loses, plus a rehydration clause for Ryan Garcia. Now everyone has been saying that this is an easy fight for Tank, meanwhile Tank is taking Ryan Garcia seriously. He knows that Ryan is a dangerous threat. He also even said that he's been working on his defense in this fight. Again, Tank knows the reality of this fight. Ryan Garcia was complaining about the rehydration clause, and it makes sense as to why he's upset, because if that's the case, where was the rehydration clause for Mario Barrios? He's the same size as Ryan, or maybe even bigger. However, Ryan made the decision to sign the dotted line. You agreed to that, so there's no room to renegotiate. And it also seems like Tank is employing his Mayweather antics with these terms as well. So before we speak about the fight, I just want to cover all of the arguments and the narratives very quickly. Through the press conferences for this fight, these two have been jawing at each other. It's been very entertaining, but I can't cap, I think Ryan Garcia has been winning with his lines. I remember when he said Tank was dancing with a unicorn or falling through a rainbow, or when he said Tank was dressed like a 2001 vintage store or something like that. Those lines are good, I'm not gonna lie, those lines were funny. But one of the things that Ryan keeps mentioning about Tank is the fact that he gets hit a lot. Now I don't necessarily agree with that because I don't think that he gets hit a lot. I just think the better way to put it is that Tank is hittable. I'm pretty sure he's also indirectly referring to Tank's fights with Gamboa, Leo Santa Cruz, and Mario Barrios. And in those fights, Tank did get hit with punches that he maybe shouldn't have gotten hit with, but the point for me is that it wasn't like he was getting punished. In addition, he's also gotten a lot better since those fights. Look at his last two recent performances against Rolly and Luis Garcia. Defensively, there are improvements in his game. Tank, on the other hand, has claimed that Ryan is a one-trick pony. I'm guessing that he's indicating that Ryan only has a left hook, and if you watch his fights, I wouldn't say that that is an incorrect assessment. We obviously know that Ryan has an amazing left hook. He's knocked numerous people out with it. However, if you watch Ryan's last fight against Javier Fortuna, everything he was doing was to set up the left hook. The jab and even the right hand, which is known to be the southpaw killer, was used to set up the left hook. And once the left hook caught Fortuna's attention, that's when Ryan would go down to the liver and start breaking him down. He did this against Luke Campbell and many other fighters as well. One last thing I would like to comment on is the narrative that Ryan Garcia has a sus chin. And when I heard this, I had the same reaction as Sean Porter. Does he? I mean, he's only been dropped one time and it was against Luke Campbell. And yes, Luke Campbell isn't the hardest puncher, but you have to realize that Ryan got dropped by a well set up punch. Campbell was attacking the body many times before the knockdown, and he feinted to draw Ryan's hands down, which sets up the overhand left over the top. Beautiful execution, and it was a punch he didn't see. That punch could have dropped anybody, and this is more of a problem with Ryan Garcia's IQ instead of his chin. I believe he was caught in the element of surprise, and on the bright side, he got up, continued to press forward, and finished the fight, which is another proof that Ryan Garcia is a real fighter. Alright, so I believe that I have covered everything, so in that case, let's move on to the fight now. So let's establish who both fighters are. Let's start with Ryan Garcia first. We know that he has fast hands. We see the Instagram videos of him hitting the reflex bag. We know that he's called the Flash for a reason. He's got the left hook and even a fast jab as well. However, typically, Ryan Garcia likes to fight on the outside. That's where he's usually at his best. He prefers to keep the fight at his range where he likes to fight tall and long so he can employ his size advantage. In doing this, he can either pick guys apart or he can catch fighters coming in or in the middle of their offense. This is usually where we see the ghost punch by him. Speed certainly kills and he does a great job of using it. He also has power in his hands as well. Not as much as Tank in my opinion, but he has enough to crack and hurt him. His lead attacks are the threat here because he usually likes to land the jab. If that happens, it sets up openings for the left hook, which then opens up shots to the body. So it all pretty much ties into each other, which is great for him. He can set up his shots that way. However, as fast as he is, his speed has a flaw. And what is it? Well, I believe Ryan Garcia is very good at throwing one punch very fast. If he needs to throw a jab, a cross, or a hook by itself very fast, he can do that. But when it comes to combination punching, I don't think he's that quick. I don't think he's even top 5 when it comes to throwing combos, and that's an area that might hurt him in this fight, which we'll talk about later in this video. Another flaw that could be a possibility is that his chin is too high. Now, at the beginning of his career, this was certainly true. However, now, I don't think it's as big of a problem. I believe Joe Goosen has done a fantastic job of correcting this error in the Fortuna fight. The last flaw from Ryan Garcia is that he is flat-footed. Now, being flat-footed isn't always a bad thing. Great fighters, they break the rules all the time. Canelo Alvarez is very flat-footed, but his upper body movement makes up for it. So is Ryan Garcia great enough to be flat-footed? I don't think so. I think he does this so he can be set in his legs to throw power punches, but in my opinion, it's not the best move, especially in this fight. Another one I just want to throw out there is that I personally don't believe he's the smartest fighter in the ring, but we'll see. Alright, so now let's break down the strengths and flaws of Tank. Let's get the obvious out of the way, the power. Gervonta Davis has God-given power. Every time he touches anybody clean with the left or right hand, there's a good chance they're going to go down. He's also quick as well, not as quick as Ryan Garcia, but he can punch fast. On top of that, he's got effective aggression. He understands how to enter range, break down a fighter, use shot selection, and set up punches. This then ties into my next point, which is something I don't think Tank gets a lot of credit for, which is his ring IQ. He can make reads very efficiently. He can know a lot of tendencies and take advantage of them to set up what he wants to do. Against Rolly Romero, I thought that was the fight that showed how smart of a fighter Tank is. If you watched that fight, you would know what Tank was trying to do the entire time, and as soon as he executed, that was all she wrote. So what are the flaws of Tank Davis? Well, the first one is his conditioning. This was very common early on in his career. He would miss weight and struggle to stay active consistently through 12 rounds. However, I don't think it's as big of an issue now, but it could be a possibility. The second one kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, and it's the pacing. When Tank dictates the pace, he's at his best. But when guys like Mario Barrios, Leo Santa Cruz, and Isaac Cruz start to push the pace, that's where Tank could get into some trouble. Lastly, his ability to fight off the back foot is not the greatest. When he's up against the ropes, he's not terrible, but he can get exploited in many areas. Isaac Cruz had a lot of success, and even Rolly Romero in some parts of their fight even had a lot of success as well. In this fight, I think Ryan Garcia will start faster than Tank. History has shown that Tank normally likes to start slow in the first few rounds. He does this to get a feel for his opponent, and in this fight, I don't think Tank will approach it any differently. I think he knows how important it is for him to be able to last 12 rounds in case it does go that far. For Ryan Garcia, in these early rounds, he needs to establish that jab. He needs to establish himself as the bigger fighter here. If he can fire those fast jabs and keep Tank at bay in the center of the ring, then he'll be in a very good position. If the jab starts to affect Tank, then you already know he's going to find a home for that left hook. And the fact that Tank is a southpaw kind of worries me a little bit, because I believe Ryan Garcia's style works the best against southpaws. His heavy lead hand style works best against southpaws. And Tank, he is susceptible to the left hook. Barrios was able to land it, and even Rolly was able to land it as well. One thing I think Ryan has to do is to avoid the ropes to not get caught up in fighting on the inside against Tank, and this is where his footwork has to be useful. Earlier I mentioned that Garcia can be flat-footed, and that can't happen in this fight. At some point, he's going to need to move on his toes. Tank can also be flat-footed, but he's a lot bouncier than Ryan. Ryan needs to use lateral movement and eventually set traps to catch Tank either coming in or during his offense. If Ryan Garcia is content with being flat-footed, then it could get dangerous because he might have to resort to pulling his head out of range since his feet can't keep up, and that is scary for him. His chin can be exposed, and that could be a definitive target for Tank to land. On top of that, Tank explodes in and out of range very quickly, and that is something that Ryan is going to have to address. So for Ryan, if he keeps the fight at distance, dictates the pace, and is defensively aware, and lands the jab, then he'll be okay. Now this is the most important part of the fight. This is where the fight could change. Tank normally starts to get going from about rounds 4 to 6. This is where Tank starts to come forward with his own jab and cuts the ring off. He'll start to rip shots to the body and throw powerful combos, and the power that he possesses will be inflicted. This is where he's usually at his best, when he's on the inside, outworking guys and landing at will. And his IQ will start to come into play as well. He'll start to read you as he's attacking. However, this is now Ryan's job to not allow him to get going. Because if you think about it, Tank is already giving up rounds at the beginning of the fight. If he starts to increase the pace and pressure, but if you don't allow him to do so and you start to land, that's where the fight will change. Ryan also needs to make sure that he has to increase the activity and start throwing combos. Remember when I said that he's very good at throwing one punch very fast? Well, he can't do that in the middle of the fight because Tank is a great counter puncher and he'll be able to time it. He cannot be reluctant to only throwing single shots. But if Ryan starts to throw combinations, then it forces Tank to reset and work throughout the entire fight. Towards the end of the fight, I think Tank will do a lot better than Ryan in the championship rounds. He's the fighter that has more experience in these type of moments, and he usually delivers. Against Barrios, it was a close fight heading into the final rounds, and he was able to find openings to land and finish the fight. Same with the fight against Gamboa as well. Something about him knowing that he has to give it his all in the final stretches till the end of the fight is where Tank is most dangerous. I believe he'll be very successful in closing the distance and being right where he needs to be to finish the fight strong. So with that being said, I got Gervonta Tank Davis by points in a unanimous decision, but I think they both catch each other and knock each other down during the fight. And I won't be surprised if Ryan Garcia gets it done. Ryan Garcia can absolutely win this fight if he sticks to the game plan. And for me, I think it's about who's able to handle their weaknesses better, because at some point, they'll have to face them. Tank is at his best when he's on the front foot, whereas Ryan is at his best when he's on the back foot. If Ryan goes back in a straight line and is caught up against the ropes, Tank could have his way. On the other hand, if Tank commits but he makes an error within the distance, Ryan could catch him with a quick clean shot. But how does Tank deal with being on the back foot, and how does Ryan look on the front foot? If I had to pick, I would say Tank is the all-around better boxer. He can box from all ranges and he's shown more poise, whereas Ryan Garcia, he's not the best on the front foot. Against Luke Campbell, he didn't really have the best offense coming forward, but we shall see against Tank. They're both big punchers, so I'm not going to be surprised if they hurt each other and go down. I truly believe Tank will have to go to different places mentally during this fight to win, because this is the moment to show that he is great. For Ryan Garcia, this is the moment you've been waiting for. You've been calling him out for years now. This fight should have happened years ago, and this is your opportunity to demand your respect. The boxing world doesn't respect you as a professional fighter, so if you win this fight, you absolutely will get shot up to the moon and earn your respect. Both guys look prepared and ready to go, and I certainly cannot wait. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to what I have to say, and let me know, who do you have winning this fight, Gervonta Tank Davis or Ryan Garcia? Drop a comment and let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoy content that is related to combat sports, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Please follow my blog and my Twitter. The links are in the description down below. And other than that, it's been Steven signing out. Peace.